Hello and welcome to my pyrography tips, and I'm Daisy's 60-minute crafts, and what you can see in front of me is two pyrography tools, and I'm just going to talk you through my top tips because so many people say to me that they struggle when they buy one of these pens, they have a go with it and then they give up. So I don't want you to give up. I want you to get the very best out of the equipment that you've bought, and wood burning is a fab little craft to do. It's so mindful and it is so relaxing. So what I've got in front of me here is two different tools, and the reason they're different is because this one here is the cheapest version you can buy. It's got no on and off switch, and you just plug it in and go. That is the basic entry level, and it is possible to do some good work with it, but I do prefer if you can buy one that has got a heat temperature with an on and off button. You'll just find it that little bit easier to manage. But whichever one you have, don't worry, my top tips will work for either. So they both come with removable nibs, and whatever pen you've got is likely to have come with a selection just like I've got in front of me here. So I'm just going to take this pen out of the way, and I'm going to stick with this one here. If you're wondering what it is, it's an Antex Pyro Master, and it comes with these nibs here that I've got in front of me. Now, they're various different shapes. Some are quite sharp looking, some have points, rounded, one's a little bit like an iron, one more like a biro, and then there's a whole selection of stamp type nibs. One of them's used for putting gems on, so they're not all for wood burning. Some of them are great for wax crafts and things like that. So I'm not going to go into all of the uses of the different nibs in today's video, but what I am going to talk to you about is how to get the very best out of your pen. So I'm going to move these nibs out of the way. And my first top tip is to choose a nib that looks familiar to you. So if you've got a pen with a variety of nibs, then choose one that looks like a pen that you recognize, or a pencil. So you'll see in my pen here, I've put a nib that just looks like the end of a pen or a pencil, just something very familiar. And you need to screw that into the end of the barrel. You don't want to over tighten it. You don't particularly want to use pliers or anything to do that with. What you have to remember is there's a thread inside of here, and it could get ruined really easily by over tightening or by tightening it whilst it's hot. So try and avoid doing that because you want your pen to last as long as possible. The problem you have with this kind of pen is you can't change your nib while you're working. So you kind of need to get a nib that you're going to get good at using and stick with that for a while until you get really good at wood burning, and then you'll be able to get going and change to different nibs and work out what they do. And I'll obviously do another video at some point which will show you what the different nibs do. Now, one of the things you will first notice when you hold your pen here is that the nib is quite a considerable way from your hand. So if I was holding a pencil, for instance, and I'm going to draw with it, my fingers are really near the nib, and it makes it really easy to control. The first thing about holding a pyrography pen is, a pen like this anyway, is that your fingers are so far away that the control can feel a little bit obscure, a little bit not like what you're used to. Okay, so just get a feel for that before you heat it up. Don't think I've got to go straight in there with it hot. I've got mine cold, and just have a feel for what it feels like writing with your hand such a distance from the nib. Right, that's my first top tip. So just get used to that. It's just a fine motor skill. It's just something that you're going to become more familiar with over time. So the other tip that I have is that because it looks like a biro and it feels like a biro, people think that you need to press hard to make it work. And that's the first mistake that people make. You do not want to press hard at all with the pen. You need to let the heat do the work. So you touch down with your pen and you just tickle the surface of the wood. Don't press at all. If you press, it forces it to burn stronger and you'll get these scorch marks in your burning, which you don't want. So get used to the feel of the distance. Remember, when you touch down with the pen, don't press. You just gently work across the surface of the wood to make the burn. Okay, third top tip. You have to remember that when you heat up the pen and you pick it up from its holder, it's at its very hottest. And when it's at its hottest and you touch down on the wood, then it's going to burn really quickly. So what you mustn't do is touch down and stop. You must be touching down with the pen and have it moving. And if you have it moving, then it won't do that scorch mark at the beginning. So I always tell people to imagine it like an aeroplane. So the aeroplane is landing and it's moving and it keeps moving and takes off. Don't pause when you finish writing or drawing either, because if you do that, you're going to have a scorch mark at the end. And that's something that people get frustrated with initially when they start, because they're like, why have I got all these burnt blobs? So if I bring something in here, you can see all of those burnt scorch marks, just to demonstrate what happens if you stop, if you press too hard, if you don't keep the pen moving. Okay, so that's 3 top tips. Think about the distance that you're holding it so that you're familiar with using it and holding it at that distance and controlling it. Don't press hard, just touch the surface of the wood. And make sure when you touch down that you lift off like an aeroplane. So you land and then you take off. Don't want to stop at any point. Your pen will take about 3 minutes to heat up. Once you've turned it on, the light will come on. Make sure you've got it rested on a surface that's safe. I've got it on a heat-proof mat here. You can burn lots of different kinds of wood, and that can add to your success. So don't think for a minute that you can get a piece of pine like this and you're going to get a great result. This little old piece of pine here is great for me checking if my pen's hot, but it's not going to be any good for creating any lovely patterns. The wood needs to be really smooth and sanded finely, and the better quality the wood, so the tighter the grain, the better the burn will be. But you will find the majority of things that you pick up from stores to burn, they're not that great quality, but it doesn't mean you can't get super results by just taking your time and thinking about those top tips. The other thing that people do is they think they can write with it like a pen and you can move it as quickly as you would move a pencil or a pen. Now you can't with this kind of pen. This kind of hobby pen needs to move really slowly. The slower you move, the darker the burn. The faster you move, the lighter the burn. So think about that when you're making your patterns. And if you can see here, I've done some burns on some coasters and I've kept a real consistent burn across the whole pattern. You can add shading. So if I turn that one over, you can see the various shading that you can create. So you can burn coasters, you can burn spoons, spatulas, Christmas decorations. You can add paint to them to really make them stand out. And I've got a nice piece of oak here where I burnt a lovely picture of a rabbit. So there's loads that you can do once you get the hang of it. And the hobby pen doesn't have to just be used on wood. It can also be used on leather, on cork, and even on fabric. But I'm not going to talk too much about that today. So I am just heating up my pen so you can see that it works. Always recommend that you use a pencil and draw an outline of whatever it is you're going to do first. Don't just go blind at it. Make sure you've got a pattern to follow. Make sure your pen is completely hot. And so let's just remember, think about the distance of your hand from the pen so you can control it. Make sure that you don't press hard. You just tickle the surface of the wood. Think about when it lands on the wood, keeping it moving, and when you finish, lifting it off so that it's taking off. And think about the pace that you're moving the pen. It's got to be steady and it's got to be consistent so that you get a lovely consistent burn. So when you think your pen's hot enough, just try it on a scrap of wood, and you want to see that you get a little bit of scorch mark coming off it. And then I'm just having, I've got a lolly stick here, so you can practice on any small bits of wood that you have. Land the pen down and then just keep it moving. And if you're not happy with how dark the burn is, you can go over it a few times. So just follow your pencil line, and any pencil lines that you don't need will just rub away at the end. And I'm Daisy's 60-minute crafts, and this is my top tips on how to wood burn with a Pyrography pen. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe if you want notifications of any further lives and more tutorials. And if you click the bell, you'll get a notification when I'm next live. So it's been lovely talking to you about wood burning. Remember, like I said, you can rub away the pencil marks at the end, and all it takes is a little bit of practice. Just remember those top tips and you'll be away in no time. Thank you for watching, and I'm going to be doing 60-minute crafts every month on YouTube, and if that's something that you'd like to try, there's lots of different crafts that I'm going to show to you. You can visit my website on www.daisys60minutecrafts and sign up for a monthly 60-minute craft slot, which is just £4.50 a month. Hop over to my website, have a look at the details, and I hope to be crafting with you soon.